Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, I want to go over the changes that the Maple Leafs made to their lineup in practice today and talk about the why and how they can sort of work. Well, the purpose and topic of this video is focusing on the lineup changes that they made. The main theme from practice today is that it's looking like everyone except for Muzzin is going to play Wednesday against the Ducks at home. But diving into the changes here, Ondrej Kase is slotting back up into the Maple Leafs top six where he's played when Mitch Marner's been out of the lineup. Bunting, Matthews, Kase obviously will compare and contrast the numbers to what they were when that trio was together without Mitch Marner, and then look at the numbers with Mitch Marner there a little bit later on in the video. But Mikheyev, Tavares, Marner. Obviously, the Maple Leafs went into this year's preseason wanting to play him in the top six, whether that's because they believed in him as a top six forward, or they just wanted to show him that he is not a top six forward, because that was the basis of his trade request from last year, that he wasn't getting enough ice time, that he wasn't playing in the top six, so he wanted an opportunity to pursue that elsewhere. But obviously, he was hurt in the preseason, and they weren't able to see what Mikheyev in their top six looked like over an extended period of time this season. He's got 6 goals in his last 8 games since coming back from injury, right? A lot of those goals have come from in tight, in and around the net, so the shooting percentage naturally is going to be high on shots taken from that area, but he's also scored one of those goals on a breakaway, right? So definitely not a reason to not give him a promotion, but as far as how that'll work out for them, I don't know. I guess we're just going to have to watch the games and see and evaluate when Mikheyev is paired with Tavares over the next little while. But with the pros come the cons, and there is a side of this that I would like to touch on that a lot of other people have spent a lot of time already talking about, and that's if you bump someone up in the lineup, you're naturally going to be bumping someone down. Why is William Nylander not playing with one of John Tavares or Austin Matthews? He's the team's second leading scorer. Why is Alex Kerfoot getting bumped down there when he's the team's 5th leading scorer and on pace to have a career season? And Keefe's response to those questions would be that he wants to see how the team will play with a more balanced lineup approach, with Matthews, Marner, Nylander all on 3 different lines. He wants to see how the other teams will respond to it. And he made sure to point it out that there is no demotion for anybody here. He just wants to see how the team will perform, and he wants to see how other teams will react to it. And if I'm being honest with you, it's not a bad question to have answered come playoff time. I'm not saying that I would do this. I'm not saying that it is my most preferred lineup. All I'm saying is that if they're able to play well with all 3 of these guys on different lines, yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun time for the opposing coach. How do you how do you approach defending that? Not to be a cynic or anything, because it is the positive way to look at it, right? How is the other team going to defend what the Leafs are trying to do? Not how are the Leafs going to try to counter the defensive strategy that the other team has for them, but the other team's countered them quite well the last couple of years, so maybe that bodes well for having a couple of extra tricks up your sleeve come playoff time. Obviously, the lines to start the game are not a permanent thing. You can switch things up on the fly, but naturally seeing William Nylander there on that third line, paired next to David Kampf and Alex Kerfoot, you worry about his ice time, right? He's up around 19 minutes a night almost so far this season after playing just 60 and 36 last year. That was a big point of contention in the offseason, and I yelled about that almost for 2 or 3 minutes straight in one of the videos right before the season started, that William Nylander needs to play more, and he is playing more, and he's definitely deserved those minutes. I got to be honest with you, when I first looked at the lines, David Kampf between William Nylander and Alex Kerfoot kind of confused me, but the more that I thought about it, the more that it makes sense. Those 2 guys do not need a centerman that shoots, distributes, or carries the puck. David Kampf's role on that line is very boring and very simple, but it's very important. And it's a strategy that the Vegas Golden Knights have used for years. They haven't had access to the most talented centers, right? It's expensive to sign them, it's expensive to trade for them, and it takes a while to develop them. They've made do with the Chandler Stevenson and William Karlsson, and it's no disrespect to those guys, but you pair them with very talented wingers, you simplify their job, all they're responsible for is getting the most out of the wingers, right? You make a couple of short passes, maybe you allow those guys to cheat on offense a little bit. You allow those guys to lean on their most valuable skill sets. And for Kerfoot and Nylander, that definitely is moving the puck. That definitely is skating, and that definitely is creating offense. And it's a role that the Montreal Canadiens used Philippe Danault in for a number of years, and it's a role that David Kampf is also pretty familiar with, as he often did that for the Chicago Blackhawks his last couple of years there. And it's something that I mentioned when the Leafs first signed David Kampf, but I will bring back up the Jack Han article that he wrote talking about Kampf and comparing him to Philippe Danault, and uh, I'll leave that linked in the description if you want to check that out. But what business does David Kampf have playing in the middle of Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat so much last year? What business does he have playing with a former 30-goal guy in Dominic Kubalik? But looking over the numbers here, basically every single line combination that Auston Matthews has been a part of this year has been amazing. But I got to be honest with you, that trio of Bunting, Matthews, Marner is the second best in the entire NHL in terms of the expected goals percentage. And it's also one of the better defensive lines in the NHL as well. And they spend a large percentage of their ice time playing against the other team's best players. If we're looking at the with and without stats over the last 2 seasons when it comes to Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner, it's just not a hot take to say that the best goal scorer in the league is better when he's paired next to one of the best playmakers in the NHL. And vice versa. It's not a hot take. It's kind of obvious. But if we're looking at the numbers when these two guys are paired together, Auston Matthews is able to be good without him, but he is at his best with Mitch Marner, and that's evident by looking at the scoring chance share, the expected goal number, the actual goal number, the shot share, the shot attempt share. Every number across the board is better when Matthews is paired next to Marner. Now, there's a lot of numbers up on the screen right now, but I'd like to direct your attention to the second row here. And basically, what it is it's looking at Mitch Marner's numbers away from Auston Matthews against elite competition. If you want to just look at Mitch Marner's numbers away from Auston Matthews and draw conclusions from that, I'd say that there's a lot of contextual information that's missing there. I would say that the majority of the minutes that Marner spends away from Matthews are playing in harsher defensive matchups. And if the numbers overall don't look so great, I would take a look at the defensive numbers relative to the rest of the team. And at that point, I'd say that Mitch Marner is able to be fairly effective defensively without Auston Matthews. But Auston Matthews definitely is a pretty damn good defensive player, as he's proving this year. The site that I'm using to display all of this information is called puckiq.com, and I'll leave it linked in the description of the video if you wanted to play around with it. It's a neat little tool to just show players' numbers when playing against elite middle of the lineup and then lower end type competition. And it's really cool to see how the Maple Leafs have handled other teams' best players this year and who they've been matching up against. But if you're looking at the offensive zone start percentage and you're seeing David Kampf, Ondřej Kase, Ilya Mikheyev, Pierre Engvall, and then just a huge jump between Engvall and the next guy there, that's very much deliberate and on purpose. And if you just want to take a look at, the good old-fashioned goals for, goals against, if you're looking at guys like Kampf, Kase, and Mikheyev, even in those high percentage of shifts that start with a faceoff that they take in the defensive zone, they are outscoring the other team's best players. 7-3 for Kampf, 4-2 for Kase, 2-0 for Mikheyev, and then Engvall's there getting outscored 2-3. But hey, the other guy that really jumps off the page here is Alex Kerfoot, outscoring the other team's best players 13-7 when he's on the ice. Coincidence or not, that's how you're going to get the coach to love you if you're not a superstar on your team. But something just really quickly that I wanted to point out here before I end off the video about Ondřej Kase. In his first 21 games this year, he had 5 goals and 8 points and averaged just over 13 minutes a night. But since the beginning of December, in the games where Mitch Marner has been injured, basically, so filling in for Mitch Marner, he's played pretty close to 18 minutes a night, and he's got 9 points in those 9 games. The more that this guy plays, the better that he gets. And it's just so much fun, and it's such a great story on this year's team that he's been able to accomplish what he's done so far this year. And for Kase, whether it's playing on that third line in a shutdown role and outscoring elite competition, or just scoring goals and being effective for the Leafs on the power play, he can do it all. He's been doing it all so far this year, even an effective penalty killer. He's just an absolute coach's dream. And like I said, it's an amazing story so far on this year's team, what he's been able to accomplish. Let alone that he's playing next to a childhood friend in David Kampf, and even Alex Kerfoot, who they all go back. It's all connected. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. Let me know what you think of the new line combinations and how do you think it goes down in the comment section below. But as always, make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And I guess I'll catch you in the next video when we're looking at some trade options.